Welcome to Lost in Translation, the podcast of the Intensive English program at West Virginia University, where we explore language learning, different cultures, university life in the United States, and more. In this episode, I'll be talking to Hana Elbarrawy. Hana is an international student from Egypt, a senior at WVU, and a student ambassador for the university's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Hana and the others at the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion help to make our campus a more welcoming and inclusive place. I'll be talking to Hana about her decision to study abroad in the U.S., her experience at WVU as an international student, and her work with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Let's get into it. All right. So hi, Hana. Thanks for coming on to our podcast.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
So to get started, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Hana Elbarrawy, and I am an international student from Egypt. I study political science and 2 minors in PR and women and gender studies. And this is actually my senior year, so I'm so excited to see what it's got for me and all. And that's about it, really.
Wow. So you're I think, a hardworking student. You have a lot going on.
I love learning.
Minors, and you're probably pretty busy.
I love learning.
That's awesome. Okay. So you are from Egypt, right? And can you tell us a little bit about your journey, coming to WVU? How did you make that decision? Just tell us about that.
Okay, well, that's a big one. All right, so I have a twin brother who's always been keen about, studying abroad and all. And I personally wanted to, stay in Egypt and, study in Egypt. But then my parents were like, why don't you two go in there and, have the adventure and, try something new? And I was like, okay, we might as well do that. And we actually, applied to so many schools, but then West Virginia was one of the very few ones that where he and I got accepted at the same time. And then we were like, West Virginia, it is. That's a sign. We got accepted on the same day. So we'll just come to WVU.
Wow. That's so cool. How did you, so you have a twin.
Yes.
That has probably been, what effect has that had, being able to come with your twin brother to do all of this?
It's made things so much easier. I don't think I would have done it. I mean, I would, but he's made things so much easier, finding the apartments and dorm rooms and making it easy to have a family member with you out here. It's so much easier.
Yeah, sure. Do you guys have that? I think a lot of twins talk about a special bond.
Oh yeah,
they have you have a sense about each other.
I always tell them that we stay the two of us stayed together for extra 9 months more than anyone else. So we do have that special bond.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's awesome that you could come to college in the same place. I think it would be hard to be have such a strong connection with somebody and be far from them. So that's great. Okay, so making a decision to come, and study on the other side of the world in another country, it's not an easy decision. Can you tell us about your experience as an international student at WVU? Sure.
So if I had to put my my journey and describe my journey in 3 different words, it would be phenomenal, bold, and most definitely challenging. But challenging in a good way. You know how a roller coaster has to go up and down for it to be a good, enjoyable ride, and so that has been the case for me here in West Virginia. I'd say the 2 most challenging things that have been so far since I'm a senior. The first would be probably that finding my true colors in a place so diverse and so full of ideas, so full of people. I don't know where I stood when I first got here. I knew that I wanted to study political science, but then again, there are so many other majors here that are not offered, that are not even up to question to be offered back home. And so I was like, oh wow, there's so much things that can be studied here. There's so many ideas. There's so many different potentials and all. And then it was just me coming out here and getting out of my bubble, my what is it called, comfort zone and all. And so that was challenging. But then again, I came across this American psychologist, who says it's not easy to know what we want. It's a rare and a very a rare and a psychological accomplishment, and it's been making me so feel so good about myself because it's so hard, here out here, which I'd say, like, being a senior, I feel like it's rewarding because I'm starting to learn what I want to do and like what I'm good at. And then the second thing is saying goodbyes. Really, that's been so challenging because, like, as an international student, I meet other international students too who like come for a semester or two. And so that's been challenging to have to say goodbye every single time. That is, yeah.
I'll say that's one of the hardest things about my job as a teacher. And before that, so like, students move on from our program and they'll leave the country, and I have no idea, unless they write me, I don't know where they are or what they're doing. And so it's hard. I think it's hard to say goodbye.
Yeah. And I've said so many of them so far, so but I'm getting used to it, because of how many times I've been saying it.
So let's go back to what you mentioned about the quote from that psychologist. I really like that, how getting out of your comfort zone, it will change you, and I want to hear more about that. So how do you think you've grown personally from this experience? You're a senior, so I'm guessing you've been here for 4 years. From spending 4 years studying in another country, how do you think you've grown?
So I always tell my professors who ask me the same question that this experience, like coming out here to the United States, has been eye-opening in so many different ways. Like my women and gender studies minor, this has given me, I learned things about like the world that I'd never known about before. And so I'm forever grateful for this experience because you study about Black culture, you study about women's rights, you study about minorities, you study about vulnerable populations, you study about your own purpose. And that's things that they exist in the world, but they don't have so much potential, like not potential, but they don't have so much, we don't study them back home. We don't know them back home. And so I'm grateful that I've just studied these things and I've opened my eyes and like heart and soul to things like that here, so that when I go back home, I have somewhere to start in this area, in this field. Because after all, I'm a poli-sci major and I have a minor in PR, women gender studies. So I feel like it's helping me to find my purpose,
Well, I would say that's kind of a perfect connection to the to the next topic that I want to talk about, which is diversity and your work with the your work with the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. But I just want to say, I feel like it's not just, you mentioned not studying it, maybe not studying those kinds of things back home, but I don't think it's just like in Egypt. There are a lot of people here who are maybe not as mindful of these issues, but coming to college can be such an eye-opening experience for everybody, no matter where they're from. And I feel like Morgantown is a really special place because there are people from everywhere. You have a chance to meet. I mean, even just in my job as a teacher, teaching international students coming to learn English, I've met students from all over the world. That's been a really eye-opening experience for me. So you talked about, your major and things that you've learned, women's and gender studies and political science, and that's a really good connection then to your work with the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So I want you to tell us a little bit about first, maybe just kind of give us a blurb, give us a mission statement, like what is that department for anybody listening who doesn't know, and then tell us a little bit about your work there. How did you get involved? What do you do? What has your experience been like?
Sure. So actually, a lot of students on campus have absolutely no idea what the DDEI, like Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, is for. And I keep telling them that we need to spread the word and spread the awareness, because it's a very, very helpful office and tool for students, especially international students, to get around and know their rights and what is expected of them, and get help whenever they need it. I first got involved, I think it was in 2018 when I was just laying in bed, and I received this email where it says that you can apply to be a student ambassador on campus. I was like, oh, that sounds fancy and definitely looks good on a resume, so why not go for it? And I checked the requirements and I met them all. And so I applied for it, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait. A couple of days later, a week most, I got back an email saying that I got selected to be one of the student ambassadors for the program. I was just starting in 2018, I believe. And so I was, along with the 15 students, we were like the student ambassadors. And we held a meeting by the end of 2018, and we were like, okay, we're going to start this program upright. And in 2019, we started doing stuff and like programs and all, and it was amazing. I loved it so much. It was competitive too. Like we had so many applicants applying, but then it was only 15 out of like 30, 35 because it was starting new and all. And then I heard about a job opening in the office itself, and I was like, let's try that out too. And I applied, and I got interviewed, and I got accepted, and that's where I was like in the office for like two different things, so working and like as a student worker and as an international student ambassador. And it's been the most amazing thing ever. Like I love the office. It's so positive all the time, and like VP Poor, like the person responsible of the office, is always down. Like she's always down to help whenever you need help. Like I know for me personally, I've had to contact her a couple of times, and like Isuri and everyone else there is just so, they do their job right, you know, and they're very, very hardworking, and that's what I like the most about being in an office that, you know, serves diversity well. Because like I as a office assistant, I always see students coming in and out, international students with problems, and they leave with like, you know, solutions, with at least help with tools and all. So yeah. I love being part of this office, honestly.
So tell us a little bit more about what you do as a student ambassador, as a student worker there in the office, and like what, you know, maybe some things that you have taken from that job, I guess. I don't know really how to ask it, but I think
right. Okay. So as a student ambassador, we've got like T-shirts where we wear them on campus so that people know that we represent this program. And I've got like in class, I'd always get questions: what is this program? What are you wearing? Like the shirts and all. And so it's a good way for us to like spread the word and spread awareness about the office.
Well, let me stop you there. What is your mission as a student ambassador?
Sure. So we basically, like, if we see anything that is not right happening on campus, we report it to our Isuri would be the manager of the program. So we've seen a couple of incidents that happen on campus that are not appropriate, like culture appropriate, for example. And so we've reported to them because, like, you know, it's easier for us to reach out and like to see things happening on campus. And 15 of us in like both campuses, it was so much easier this way. Something else would be sometimes we go to different organizations and like talk about our like mission, our program, so that they could spread it to their friends and like friends of friends. And so that's like, I think, the biggest mission for.
So you guys are like kind of like eyes and ears.
Yeah, basically.
And a connection point between the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and the student body.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. And so tell us a little bit more about, you know, what has been, you mentioned that you really have enjoyed working for the department. So can you tell us, like, what have been maybe just a couple, do you have any good stories, or do you have any, you know, rewarding experiences or memories that you would like to share?
Well, yeah. So in the morning, everyone would be so smiley, so hopeful of the day, even though they have one of the most stressful jobs that I've seen. Like they're always working, they're always in their office, but whenever they get up, they just leave it there. They smile, they say good mornings in the mornings, and people is always like smiling and laughing and all. They're all positive, and they're all like, I've personally sometimes needed help with stuff because as an international student, you're not always like, you know, given the information you need. And so they're always, every single one of them is keen to like help out and like let you know where you need to be. And they make you feel like there's a place for every single one of you in the office. Like I work with 5 different other student workers, and there's always room for all of us. Like, even though we come from different backgrounds, completely different backgrounds, but there's always a conversation, there's always a topic that brings us all together. Yeah. And it's almost always diversity and like what we want to do in the future and all. And one incident, I don't remember the event, but they have this time where they like all get together and like they play and with the balloons and all. It's so fun to see back home adults don't play like that at all. Like professional is professional and fun is fun, like friends. But something so good about this office is that they know how to mix. They have a really amazing balance between professionalism, but then at the same time know how to be friends with you, having to like you get the job done, but then at the same time you're there for them. That's what I love the most about the office.
That's awesome. It sounds like a really good work experience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now at this office, you're a student ambassador, but do you focus on reaching out to the international student community, or are you like a representative of the international student community, or kind of both?
Oh, okay. Yeah, kind of both. So they always get back to, because I'm also a member of the International Student Organization, like not on the board, but I attend all the events and all some of the events. And so I'm always an eye for them on like what international students, what my international students, friends think of like what's going on campus, the events, if they're coming, if they're leaving from exchange programs and all. And I tell them everything, honestly. Like even if we're just having a chit chat with a friend, I tell them if it's a concern of them, if it's a compliment for them to like work on it. And I also am a representative of the office in other organizations, so it works both ways actually.
Okay. Yeah, so you're representing the department and you're representing the international student community to the department. That's awesome. You have a lot of responsibility there.
I think my main job, I was hired to be an assistant to like an event coordinator. So I love events, and like I used to have a minor in event planning, but I was like, this is too much for me. I'm not gonna be able to graduate in time. But I love events, and I'm always there with the shirt on and like around to help people and like let them know where they need to be and like explain the event and like assist with the events. And it's been amazing to like, it's a lot of responsibilities, but it's at the same time the most rewarding and fun thing to do. I feel like it's more an activity, like a fun thing that I want to do than it is a job. So.
Well, okay, so that kind of raises another interesting question for me to ask you. Tell us about. You've planned some events for the department. Tell us about like your favorite event.
Sure. Play Like a Girl. That was one of the most amazing events ever. And we had to get more chairs because there were like more people coming in than we had expected. Because like it was in the afternoon, it was on a Friday night, so like it was just I wasn't expecting so many people to come. But in fact, because Megan Douglas, I remember her name, the hockey captain team, the American hockey captain team. She was on the panel, and some other amazing, incredible women.
Let's backtrack first and tell us what was the event, just for anybody who may not know. What was the event? What was like the purpose of it?
Okay, so the purpose of it is basically talking about how in the sports arena, how men are always almost praised, or like how the attention, the spotlight is always on them. Even in journalism, we had one of the women on the panel was a journalist who like talked about how people, even though women in like let's say a hockey sports team would be, even though they were like more shiny and like doing more to the nation, the spotlight would always be on men. And so they were just basically talking about how we need to shed light on women in sports more, because like they deserve it. They work so hard for it, and I loved it because it's like it was so purposeful. I was like, so it's got so much meaning and message behind it.
That's awesome that you got to be part of that and help organize and put that on. I think we don't always think about the people behind the scenes who help make things happen, right? But you're one of them, so that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so actually, well, that event kind of brings up a good point. I think when we think about diversity, we often think about like just maybe like racial diversity or ethnic diversity, but there are a lot of different kinds of diversity that the department helps to support, right? Like gender diversity and religious diversity. And I think those are all important things to think about. And so that event kind of just like
brings it all together.
Yeah, that points out, the different types of diversity that the department's supporting. Awesome. So let's see. I have one last question to ask you then. And if there are any international students out there who are listening, who are maybe on the fence, they're not sure if they want to come and study abroad, Specifically, if they're thinking about coming to study at WVU, what would you like to say to them?
Okay, two things. First, just do it. Nothing says it. Just do it. Really, I was very hesitant at first, but then I just took I felt it in the heart, and I was like, let's just do it. It's a new step. It's a new journey. Why not? And second thing, like I mentioned earlier in the video, in the interview with you, I said that a lot of international friends have been coming, and every single one of them who's left always tells me that they're leaving a part of them here. Like they've created, even though they're going back home to their families and friends that they miss, and they've left for like a semester or two, but they always say that they've left a part of them here in Morgantown, because you're always gonna make friends here. There's always room for everyone here. You're always gonna create your own little community, and so it's amazing. I've never seen anyone, not even a native person who's been here in WVU, who's been going to WVU, who doesn't feel like they belong here. You really do belong here. So just do it and come. It's amazing. It's incredible experience, really.
Wow, I think, well, I don't know how you could have said it better. I think that's so great. It can be so scary to take that step, and but I completely agree. I have seen so many students really enrich their lives by taking that risk. And it can be scary to feel like you may not find a home here, that, you may be different, or you may not fit in. But I think that, I just want to say, like, Hana is an example. You can find a home at WVU, and just more generally studying abroad. And so thank you, Hana. Thanks for listening. You can hear more episodes of this podcast or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/WVUIEP. That's anchor.fm/WVUIEP. You can also listen to this podcast on the iTunes Store or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with us on Instagram at WVUIEP, on Twitter at WVU_IEP, or on YouTube at youtube.com/WVUIEP. You can also learn more about our programs on our website at elli.wvu.edu. That's ELLI.wvu.edu.